To be totally honest with you, you don't want to buy any VCR.
There's no more demand for VHS anymore.
VHS players became the hottest toy in town and redefined home entertainment. But by the late 1980s, pop culture has poked fun at VHS for years.
It was a night like any other night. Then something happened.
You see that?
Something different.
It's no shooting star.
Why here? Why now? Why clowns? They've been knocking them dead all over the universe.
What are you gonna do? Knock my block off?
Soon they'll be doing it at a theater near you.
Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Pizza?
Maybe they're just cruising through the galaxy and stopped here for a bite to eat.
You don't need a police pal, you need a psychiatrist.
All right, so now we are going to go into the discussion of a movie that Michael absolutely loves.
I do.
And actually, you know what? I should just turn it over to you and let you, segue into this because this is your film.
You want me to? Okay. Well, first off, I think we're going to do this a little different than we normally do. This is quarantine. There's no rules. So our usual structures gonna go out the window. I want to know, have you both seen this movie before? And if so, when and how many times have you seen it? John?
I have. I've seen it, I don't know. Altogether, other than the other night, I rewatched it the other night to kind of refresh my brain on it and get ready for the podcast. But as far as how many times I've seen it, I don't know. It's maybe 10, 15 times total. And the first time I saw it was, I don't know, sometime in the late 90s, maybe early millennium. It was one of those. It was on, and my friends wanted to watch it. And I was like, this is completely goofy and ridiculous, but I love it. So it's been a long time. I've seen it years ago, but it's not something that I've seen hundreds of times, at all. So, but I do like it. Yeah.
Chris?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen this movie, hand in hand with Return of the Living Dead, as far as I can remember. When I think of horror comedy, I think of these two movies. I remember renting it on VHS back in the day. I couldn't even begin to count how many times I've seen the movie.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was done.
Have either of you seen it in the theater?
I have not.
So when I briefly showed you my Gremlins collection, you had asked if I had seen it in 2018 when they did it at the Belcourt, Gremlins and Gremlins 2, and I said yes. 2016, I don't know why I did this, but I went to the Belcourt website. I hadn't been to Belcourt in years, and I had noticed in November they were screening it at a midnight movie, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I almost died. I couldn't believe they were playing Killer Clowns from Outer Space. And so I have seen this in the theater, and it was pretty amazing.
Isn't that the best? That's what I love about the Belcourt is that they will do that. This is like a shameless little plug for them, but they will bring those classic cult films to the big screen so you can see, like Evil Dead. They did that a few months ago, and that was, for me, it was such an experience to get to see a film that you've loved for so many years on the way that it's meant to be presented in the big screen, and I love that they do that. So that's cool that you got that opportunity.
It was, and before they didn't do this with Gremlins, but before the movie started, they played all these old commercials that had clowns in them, and these clowns were creepy as hell. So for like the first 30 minutes before the movie started, you had all these clown commercials, and they weren't cute clowns, they were creepy clowns. But it was fun. I enjoyed it. So for me, I've lost count how many times I've watched this movie. I own it. I can remember being in Suncoast Video when it first was released on DVD in the early 2000s and being so fucking excited that it was on a physical format that I could actually own. And it was probably a few years ago where Best Buy had done like a special DVD of it with a different cover on it, which I had to buy. And then 2 years ago, Arrow Video put out a special Blu-ray edition of it, which I, of course, had to snatch up. But before we get into it, for people that are local, know that I'm one of the owners of The Groove, and then every October we do Fright Night Fridays. And the first inaugural Fright Night Fridays, the very first movie that we screened was Killer Klowns from Outer Space. So it was the Friday of the day that we were screening it, and I had posted on Instagram that we were going to be screening it Friday, and yada, yada, yada. And that morning I had woken up, and someone had commented on there. And I recognized the name, but I couldn't quite figure out who it was for a while. And I'm going through the day, I'm trying to figure out who it was, and the name of the person was John Mazzari. Well, I finally realized that John Mazzari was the composer of the score for Killer Klowns from Outer Space. And so that was a treat for me. And to this day is a treat for me because him and I have talked a little bit through Instagram and have stayed in touch since. Not like we're friends, but yeah. For a geek like me, it's made my day for sure. But so I've seen this movie countless times. The first time I probably saw it was on HBO in the early 90s. I was very young. It scared the crap out of me because I was very young, and it left an impression on me, and I've been a fan ever since, and I am very happy to have watched the progression of this movie go from obscure movie to definitely a cult classic. Its popularity has grown year after year, and it makes me very happy. So I am going to throw it over to Chris. The tables have turned. Chris, give us a brief synopsis of Killer Klowns from Outer Space.
All right. A comet supposedly lands in the small town. Some kids go to investigate, and it turns out to not be a comet, but it is a tent, or it's a spaceship, but it's in the form of a circus tent that turns out to be these alien clowns that wreak havoc in a small town.
Exactly. And chaos and hijinks and ensue.
Hijinks ensue, and it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. What's my grade for my synopsis?
That was like the best synopsis ever. John, we have done some synopsises where they are 10 minutes long, and I'm like, a synopsis is not 10 minutes long. You just told the whole story. That was perfect. You get an A. An A for that synopsis. Yes, that was perfect.
An A plus?
An A plus. I'll give you an A plus.
Awesome. But anyway, joking aside, that's the synopsis.
No, that is spot on. Of course, I'm not quite sure how you pronounce their name. I've heard Kyoto Brothers and I've heard Chiodo Brothers, so to me it doesn't really matter. I'm going to pronounce it Kyoto Brothers.
Okay.
The reason I'm going to pronounce it that way is because Mick Garris pronounces that way, and they work together on Critters 2. So the Kyoto Brothers, of course, are the ones that wrote the screenplay. directed it, produced it. This was the only movie they've actually ever directed. They have never directed a movie before or since. They've done special effects works. For people that aren't familiar, they did the Critters for Critters. They worked on Critters 2. They made the Sandworm for Beetlejuice. They made some of the creatures for Ernest Scared Stupid.
Oh.
So they've been around, and they've done quite a few things. The cast. John, do you know any of the cast? Are you familiar with any of the cast? Do you remember any of the cast?
Do I, off the top of my head, I don't remember anybody that jumped out, but I'm sure you probably got somebody that you're gonna say, "Oh, well, they were part of this and this." But I don't have anybody off the top. Yeah, I can't think of anybody that sticks out to me right away.
You have Grant Kramer, who's the male lead. He plays Mike Tobacco, and then you have Suzanne Snyder, who plays Debbie Salt. Suzanne Snyder was in Night of the Comet. She was in Return of the Living Dead Part 2, and then she did Killer Klowns from Outer Space. So that's where.
Yeah.
Then you have John Allen Nelson as a secondary character. He plays Debbie's former boyfriend. And then you have John Vernon, who does an awesome job in this movie. Love him in this movie. But that's the four main principles of this film.
Sure.
Chris, you have anything to add?
I was going to say, and I didn't look this up. I don't have my tablet with me. But I think the store owner, or the guy that's in the store when the clowns are in there and stuff, and he calls, yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
He reminded me of the principal, and producer D would know this. I think he was the principal in the Porky's movies. Again, I haven't looked that up. I don't know. But he reminded me of the principal in those 80s Porky's movies. So
he could be. There was a lot of overlap.
Sure.
All those movies, and especially being in the 80s. I'm not for sure. I'm not 100% sure. I know it was Christopher Titus's first movie. He played a small role in the movie, if you guys are familiar with Christopher Titus.
Oh, sure.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so
well, Michael, let me ask you, what was the budget for this movie?
It was $1.8 million, which isn't a lot, but when you compare it to, did you want to say something?
No. Go ahead.
But when you compare it to, because I did do a little research, when you compare it to like Chopping Mall or From Beyond, not From Beyond, Chopping Mall, Chud, it had a bigger budget than those movies. It had about half the budget of Return of the Living Dead. Return of the Living Dead was made for $4 million. This was made for 1.8, which is, I'm surprised that they managed to get one. It really surprises me that someone said, "I'm going to give you $1.8 million to make a movie about killer clowns from outer space."
Now that does not does that include the actual design of the clowns themselves, or was that separate?
From what I've read, it's everything. Most of the budget went towards production, making the clowns, making the sets. It didn't go towards much anything else.
Right. Well, my point is, for me, without the clown designs, the way they look, the movie wouldn't be anything to me. The clown designs, how they look, I mean, I thought they did an awesome job with that. They just look weird and creepy and just not quite of this earth. They seem like they would be, killer clowns from outer space. I mean,
I agree. I think if they didn't spend all that money developing those costumes, it wouldn't be the same movie. You would have some crappy C grade, B grade movie. They they spent that money very well and very wisely, and you can tell when you watch those costumes. I don't know if I'm sure you guys noticed, but there's a lot of things that really surprised me, like the eyes blink, and Shorty, the small clown, his ears move.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, the animatronics and like the prosthetics they did was for me it's another selling point of that film is there's scenes where they do zoom ups and you can see their eyebrows move, like the very expressions they have. So yeah, I agree with you that they definitely spent that money very well on making these clowns the focal point of the film that stand out.
Well, even the one clown that towards the end where they're in the alien ship, and he sticks the straw in. I mean, that clown's mouth, his lips are kind of,
you can see it looks like he's actually sucking on the straw. It would have been easy for them not to have done that, but they actually took the time to make the mask do that, and I think it sold the movie very well.
Oh, absolutely. And just the fact of the very end when, because you have your 5 or 6 clowns you primarily see that are kind of causing chaos, but then that very end when they go up the little thing and all those clowns come out, and there are some that are possibly duplicates, but they have like different hair on, and but I mean that regardless if they're duplicate or original, that's still a lot of money to make all those masks.
Oh yeah, they definitely spent most of that budget on that. It wasn't towards anything else.
But I thought they did a great job with that. John, I don't mean to cut you off, Michael, but I would like to know, was there any scene or moment that really stuck out for you with the effects?
The effects and of the film itself, like just overall, just in the film, I just anytime they showed a close up of the clowns' faces, I was always impressed with. I've always loved. I'm a big advocate of practical effects. I love whenever they actually go all the way. Like I've mentioned in previous podcasts of like The Thing is one of my favorite films, and how they went out of their way to recreate these images and these monsters. So anytime that a film takes the time to zoom in and show like a close up of an animatronic or a mask and all the details that are in it. So anytime they showed the clowns close up and you could see the expressions, whether it was like the corners of their mouths moving just slightly or their eyebrows moving up, like that small details that a lot of films wouldn't do. So anytime I saw that, I was thoroughly impressed. So there wasn't like one particular standout. It was an ongoing thought throughout the film of just anytime they showed these costumes, I was kind of impressed by them, and I was really like invested in them. And I can see why, Michael, how you said you were scared of them. If I saw it when I was in my adolescence, it would have probably frightened me too, because they're creepy. They're very hyper realistic, and just the images of it is striking for sure.
Yeah.
Well, let me get with Michael then real quick. I have a scene in mind, but let me ask you first. Was there a certain scene that really just scared you or creeped you out?
That creeped me out? Sure. There was 2 scenes that have always stuck with me, and I am going to tell you both of them. The first scene that always stuck with me as a child was the scene where that kid is in his car and he's leaving town, and that clown comes up next to him on that invisible car.
Yes.
And the way he laughs at him, that I just remember that creepy laugh. And then he knocks him off the road. And then when the car blows up, the clown laughs again. That scared the crap out of me as a kid.
Now here's the bottom. I don't mean to cut you off, but that same scene, the bottom of the clown's shoes are the headlights. Are they not?
Is that not genius? I love that. The second scene for me, and legitimately is a scary scene. Most of the movie is kind of fun and lighthearted. The scene where John Vernon is turned into a ventriloquist doll is creepy as hell. And that whole scene is played so well. John Vernon did such an amazing job. I think he did spot on and did perfect. But it's creepy. That is a scary, legitimate scary moment in that movie.
No, I agree. I will say that is one of my two. I thought the other scene that was kind of creepy was Suzanne Snyder coming out of the shower with the little heads coming out and stuff.
Yep.
I thought that was kind of creepy a little bit.
No, that one stuck with me as a kid as well. My parents had a hamper in their bedroom, and after I watched this movie, it always creeped me out to be near it. Yeah.
Yeah. But I agree with you on the other scene though. Yeah, that is creepy. But the Suzanne Snyder, when she's out of the shower and those things, because I mean it's like, what the fuck are those? Because we've already established. Yeah.
We're talking about special effects. The popcorn moving.
Yes.
Remember that?
Yes.
Moving.
Yeah.
Yes.
That had to have been tedious. I'm sure it was easy to do or figured something out, but it's those little details.
Yeah.
It's funny that you mentioned that John Vernon scene, the puppetry scene. Like that one is, if I think about scenes that do stand out to me, that is definitely one of them for me because a number of reasons of just that idea of him. He's got his hand in his back, and he's controlling him, and he's speaking through John Vernon and his character, and that scene definitely stands out to me as a creepy scene of the entire film. The entire film is kind of goofy when you look at it as a whole, obviously, but that one scene particularly was it did stand out to me as far as something that if I watched it younger, it would have freaked me out. Because when he says, there's nothing to worry about, we're just here to kill you all, like that. That whole idea, that whole scene is very frightening, and it did stand out. Yeah. That
noise when he pulls the hand out and then splashes the blood on the ground. I mean, that was they did a great job there. For me, the special effects standout is the clown that is at the bus station. I love that bus station scene where he's doing those shadow puppets, and he's doing all different shadow puppets, and then at the end he turns into the dinosaur and eats people and puts them in his popcorn bag. I love it.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite kind of ideas of the entire film, and this kind of goes along with any kill, any piece of technology, is and it's kind of like the throwaway argument is, well, they're from outer space, so they're from a different world. So when you think about how come popcorn is this, or how come cotton candy is this or this and that, so any explanation is, I'm sure the filmmakers are like, well, they're from outer space, so that's how it works on the planet. I love that. Exactly. I love that. Every time I had a question that popped in my head, I thought, well, they're from outer space, so that logic is thrown out the window a little bit.
Well, even in the movie, as when they first. Or not first, but towards the end, when they all go into the spaceship, they're questioning these things like, why are they doing this? Why are they dressed like clowns? So they do address it. So it doesn't answer it, but at least addresses it. Like they're even saying, why are they doing this? Why are they like this? Maybe they just, figured, that's a part of Earth that they took from and changed themselves to that. Maybe they actually look like something else. So I did appreciate that the filmmakers at least addressed it. They may not have answered it, but they let you know the characters are even questioning what the fuck's going on. So
yeah.
All right, Michael, what you got next for us, buddy?
You know what? I could talk about this movie for days. I love this movie. I'm going to start at the beginning. I love the way it starts out, how they're out at Makeout Corner or Makeout wherever, and everyone's having a good time, and they're in a raft in the back of the car.
Seeing that today, because I did rewatch it today. I've seen it multiple times, but I do my due diligence. I do rewatch these movies before we record. I saw that and I just thought to myself, it just dawned on me. I was like, that's such a great fucking idea. Why didn't I do that when I was like 16
When
years
you were in
old?
the 80s. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But what am I going to procure a rat though? What the fuck? But anyway, go ahead.
So you mentioned that. I have to point this out. Did anyone else notice that Debbie has only one earring, and it's like a big piece of, I think it's like a big piece of pizza or maybe like a big Dorito chip? And I kept thinking, you're in an 80s movie when you're wearing one earring and it's fucking huge.
It's gaudy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think for me, because the film started, like any film that starts off with a theme song about the film.
The Dickies.
It's
got the damn Dickies.
Right.
As soon as it started, and there was a Killer Klowns from Outer Space theme song that started the film, I was like, okay, we're in for a good movie now, because they're starting off strong with a song about themselves.
Yeah. When you convince a punk band to record a song called Killer Klowns from Outer Space, you're in for a treat. You really are.
Yeah. And it's a fun song. It is.
Yeah.
It's a fun song.
It is a fun song.
I have it on CD. I listen to it every Halloween. I admit it. I love it.
So let me ask this. So it's not available on vinyl or never been released on vinyl?
It's not. John Mazzari, 2018, went and re-recorded it. He did a GoFundMe, or it's not GoFundMe. What's the other one? Indiegogo.
Indiegogo.
He did an Indiegogo account and raised enough money to go and with a full orchestra and re-record the whole soundtrack. He got the Dickies to come and re-record the
Wow,
theme
really?
song. And then Verace, I can't pronounce it, but Verace Sarabande, the label, put out the CD. From my understanding is he wants to put it out on vinyl, but Verace Sarabande's criteria is the CD has to sell out or sell so many copies before they will put it on vinyl. He wants to. He really wants to put it on vinyl.
Well, hope they do. That'd be a cool release.
Actually, it would be, and it would sell. It would sell.
He is trying to get something going. He's posted about it, and he's told me where he would go around the country and do live screenings of the movie with a full orchestra and do the whole music to the movie. I would love. We talked about that. Yeah.
Well, they do that now at PPAC with like Star Wars and stuff. They've been doing that series lately with the full orchestra where they show.
Oh yeah, with the
film
orchestra.
So like that's very feasible. I mean, they can do that for sure.
I think they normally do every Halloween. They usually do. Was it Nosferatu?
Yeah, I think you're right. They do Nosferatu.
Yeah. That'd be something they could do for sure.
I'd be there in a heartbeat.
I just love the clowns. Every time they're on camera, they have that very distinct theme song. I love it so much. Like every time they were on screen, I was excited to hear that.
John Massari had said, well, he obviously did it on a synth. It's all electronic, but someone had pointed out to him, and he didn't realize it at the time when he made it, but it's very influenced by classical music, and that's part of why he went back and re-recorded it with a full orchestra, is because he realized that he was influenced by classical music, even though he recorded it on a synth. So you do need to go back and listen to it and see if you hear those classical music influences in it.
I can kind of see that. Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of the score, I want to know if you guys noticed this. So, Stranger Things Season 3 dropped last July, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Jesse and I were watching it, and there was a scene where, I can't think of his name, the one with the teeth, missing teeth. Dustin. Dustin comes back from camp, and he goes to his house, and all the toys are moving around by what he thinks is by himself. So
I thought the same thing.
So I'm watching that scene with Jesse, and I turned to him and I said, "That is the fucking theme from Killer Clowns from Outer Space," and it was. It was.
Yeah, me and you discussed that. Yeah.
John Mazzari had talked to them. They had reached out to him and said, "We want to use some music from Killer Clowns from Outer Space," and that is what they used, and that's the scene they used it in. I knew it the minute I heard it. I was like, "That's Killer Clowns."
Those two together. No, I definitely didn't realize that. That's a cool. I'll have to go back and rewatch that scene to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah. I when Michael told me about that, I went back and rewatched. I was like, oh my God, you're totally right. Yeah, and it's just blatant.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll get back to the movie. So the comet comes. They're at Makeout Point. They see the comet. They want to go explore, but someone else goes and explores it first. Some country hillbilly bumpkin with his dog Pooh Bear.
Pooh Bear. Come on, Pooh Bear.
I'm Pooh Bear, and unfortunately, Pooh Bear and Hillbilly don't survive. But I think it's a great comedic moment. He grabs onto that tent and gets electrocuted.
Yeah. Gets electrocuted by it.
Give me back my Pooh Bear. I love it.
Pooh Bear.
I kind of equate this next scene to a scene in The Stuff. I'm sure both of you guys have seen the movie The Stuff.
Oh, sure.
Mm-hmm.
So Debbie and Mike go, and they see this tent in the middle of the woods of nowhere because they go out to look for the comet, and they're like, let's go explore the tent. Well, I kind of equate that to the people in the beginning of The Stuff that see this white shit coming out of the ground, and they're like, let's eat this stuff that's coming out of the ground. Like, what?
Yeah.
How
What
do
you think?
What do you
have
think?
here? Yeah.
So they go and explore the tent, and they realize, I think it's Debbie realizes they're in the comet, the spaceship, and then of course they stumble upon the cocoon, the cotton candy cocoon room, which
What a wonderful idea of like cocoons that were made of cotton candy.
right? It's kind of like a cured meat room. They're curing their meat,
Yes.
and instead of casings, they're in cotton candy
Cotton
cocoon.
candy.
And I don't know if you noticed, but at that scene, it's empty, pretty much empty. The room is empty,
Yeah.
which is the catalyst of why they're on planet Earth to stock back up. But my favorite scene in that movie is when they're running away from the clowns. They're outside and they have that blow up balloon dog.
Yes. Yes.
I love it.
It was like a trick device.
And he's
I'm
like,
sorry,
smelling
that
it.
was great.
Yeah, love that scene. Such a great moment.
It is because the one clowns, well, both clowns come out, and one has the balloons, and he's like doing his thing. And he turns into a dog. He's like, "What is he doing?" And he puts it down, and it's at first it like sniffs, and then it starts barking. And at this point, you know exactly what kind of fucking movie you're in.
Yeah,
You know what kind of fucking movie you're in.
you're
And
in for a fun ride.
Exactly. Yeah. And they actually use it again because towards the end, I think there's
They
another
do.
dog that they use.
They do.
That's freaking great. That's great.
I don't know if I'm sure you guys caught it, but Debbie and Mike jump in their car and they back up and then speed off and they run over the dog.
Yes.
And the dog cries. And
Yes.
like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Love it.
So, not to get too deep into it, like I said, I know there are like 5 or 6 the main ones that you see throughout the movie.
Yeah.
Michael, let me ask you: are there names for those clowns?
Of course, you would ask me that. Yes, there are some names for the clowns. I don't know if they're official or if like fans have named them over the years.
Oh, sure. Okay.
The very short clown, which we'll get to that scene at some point. That I'm sure the motorcycle scene.
Motorcycle scene, yeah.
His name is Shorty.
Okay.
I know his name is Shorty. There is Let me look it up real quick. I think the clown with the pink hair that kind of spikes has like spikes. I think his name's Spike or Spiky. You guys keep talking while I'm looking this up.
So, John, how long had it been since you had seen it until we start, decided to do this episode?
I had known in the back of my brain that I've been wanting to do this for a while, so I've been waiting because I wanted to watch. I wanted to keep it fresh in my mind. So kind of like you like to watch it right before recording. But before I saw it, goodness, it's probably been I'd say probably 2015, 14 maybe.
Sure.
I was hanging out with some of my older roommates when I used to live in Memphis, and we were just watching just old B films, and Killer Clowns was obviously one of them that popped up. And I remember we sat down and watched it. Just the goofiness of that film itself was the selling point. But yeah, it's been probably that long since I've seen it last, and I can't even remember before that was the last time I saw it. But yeah, so it's been a few years before like this week since I've seen it.
Names, if you're ready.
Yes, please have some.
Okay, so I told you there was Spiky, the one with the pink spiked hair, and then Shorty, the one with the motorcycle scene. There's Jumbo. Jumbo is the one where they're at the fast food restaurant, and he has the big hammer behind his back.
Yes. Is he the one that's at the door when Suzanne Snyder opens it?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
That is
him.
him.
He's a real big one, right?
He's the one that John Maroney like a ventriloquist doll.
Oh, right.
There's Fatso, who is the one with the straw.
Yes.
You have Rudy. Rudy is the clown, the main clown in the pharmacy scene where he's going through the whole pharmacy.
Yeah, he's the one that like brings everything up to the counter.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Okay. That's Rudy. And then there's JoJo the Clownzilla, who is the big clown
at the end.
At the end. So, like I said, I don't know if these are official names or if these are fan names, but I have seen other people refer to them with these names before.
Well, maybe you need to send a tweet out to the brothers and see what they think.
I should ask
Why not? Yeah, just ask them.
This is JoJo. Can you see my shirt?
No.
Here.
Turn the light on. There we go.
That's JoJo.
That's JoJo. Yes.
Right there.
Yeah.
What a shirt.
I have 3 Killer Clowns shirts. Just 3.
Is that all?
That's it. I plan on getting some more one day. So where were we at? So Mike and Debbie leave. They go into town, and they go to Debbie's ex-boyfriend. And then
they go to the police station where we discover the one of the police officers is her ex-boyfriend, right?
Yeah. Deputy Dave, and then we meet Deputy Curtis Mooney, Detective Mooney, and
taking on the job, and
Mooney is no nonsense, doesn't take shit from anyone, and he has some pretty good one-liners. I remember trying to think how he said it. Whoop-de goddamn to do is
whoops, yep.
is one thing that always stuck out to me. Something I remember him talking to someone about, you're in Mooney's jail, so you didn't have any rights. But
I think he said that to the clown.
He did.
Yeah, the clown comes in, and he says, "You're in Mooney's world now."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Dave, go ahead.
I was just saying, this is kind of like a little bit further in the film, but that whole jail scene when he arrests the clown, like that whole scene itself, that's a standout scene to me. I love that scene. He hit the back of the head with the light, and he turns around, he's like, "What the hell are you?" And he's like, the whole time he's sweating. I love that scene. I love that entire interaction that goes on.
Oh yeah, that whole scene is great. And then when Dave comes back and sees all the footprints like all over the wall and the ceiling and the floor. Yeah. That is, I agree. I love it.
Handcuffs him and takes his hands off.
So of course then you have a little love triangle. Dave doesn't like Mike, and they make Debbie go back to the house so they can go explore.
Yeah.
That scene stuck out to me as a kid too, is when they go out to Lover's Point or Makeout Point, and all the car doors are all open and the back hatches are all open, and it's all covered with cotton candy, and they find that one guy's broken glasses covered with blood.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that always stuck out to me. It always creeped me out. I don't know why, but I think
honestly,
I was just going to say the glasses were like, it was like part blood, part candy, cotton candy, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, those whole cars were just covered in cotton candy.
Yeah. I think every time that you saw like a cotton candy cocoon and they like a character ripped off a piece of it, you saw like one of the faces behind it, that image also stood with me. Just like seeing that, like that bloody, just script face just behind that. Those images are always sticking out to me because like, I mean, I'm sure they probably just did a mold of someone's face to put it back there, so it doesn't have a lot of expression to it. But just seeing those, like every time they did, I was like, ugh, like just that idea of a dead body wrapped in cotton candy,
right?
Yeah, preserving it or whatever. Yeah.
I kind of always equated it to how a spider wraps up its prey, and then some spiders, I think, like inject it with like something that melts it, and then they suck it out. That's kind of how I equated those cotton candy cocoons to.
Well, and I think what you mentioned earlier is just like, what are these clowns? Do they obviously, surely they don't really look like clowns. Maybe they just stole a piece of Earth's image. Like they researched Earth, said, okay, well, this will get us close to people. So what was their true form? Was it, or do they really just look like clowns in their universe, or did they choose an image to portray to look like? That's something that I thought about the entire time. And I remember thinking at one point, maybe they look very similar to spiders because of the cotton candy cocoons and kind of how they capture people. So maybe their real essence or their real image is just like some kind of like interdimensional alien spider or something like that.
Yeah, it definitely could be. I kind of think like how there's transmissions in space. They stumbled upon a transmission and it happened to be something with clowns, and that's how they got this image. Or maybe they really are clowns. Maybe
whatever dimensional they are, they're just clowns. Yeah.
Maybe
anytime they opened their mouth though, and you saw their teeth, that also was an image. Like that's something that always stuck with me. Like anytime they smiled, or they were just like whenever like the whole after the bicycle scene, whenever he kills them and he knocks that one guy's head off and he smiles and you just see their mangled, ugly teeth. Like those images always stuck out to me. Just how their teeth are.
They did a great job with those teeth for sure. Well, I think we could talk about that scene. You have Shorty, who is very obviously a short clown, and he comes riding up on a little tricycle, little bike to a biker gang at some bar. And of course they're like, who's this clown? Literally, this little clown. And can I honk your horn? And he says yes, and he smashes his bike, and then he jumps up in the sky, and they're like, where the hell did he go? And then he comes back down, and the guy says, what does he say, John? What you gonna do? Knock my block off?
Knock my block off, yeah. And then he has those boxing gloves on his hands and just completely punches his entire head off.
And those bikers got out of there lickety split.
My thing is, I remember watching that scene, and I wonder if Shorty was actually like not just a short clown, but if it was like a young, like a child clown,
baby clown,
like a baby, yeah, like he's not fully grown yet. Maybe it wasn't just he was short; he was just a child because he like had like a very childlike qualities to him. So I'm wondering if maybe like let's play devil's advocate. Like let's say like the biker actually just played nice with this clown and honked the horn and just was cool with him. Do you think the clown would have actually killed him? It wasn't until he destroyed the bike that he. So I remember I was like, what if he was just like an adolescent clown that wasn't?
He wanted to make friends.
Yeah, he just wanted to make friends. Like he wasn't fully on board with killing people just yet because he didn't capture anybody. He just killed that guy that broke his bike. So I'm wondering if he was just a young childlike innocence of this alien species, and if they were just kind to him, if they would have just gone about their way and not have had any problems at all.
I kind of think along your lines. I think that's what it would have happened, but it made this. Go ahead.
I just thought he was like the runt of the litter, kind of. I think he would have killed him anyway. That's just me, though.
Yeah, because like I noticed like, and this is kind of this is something they did throughout the film was like they had this ability to just like jump high into the sky and just disappear. Like maybe they're not necessarily flying per se. They're just so like the shorty jumps up and when he comes back is when he has the boxing gloves on. So what if that's some kind of defense mechanism or ability to like jump in the sky to transform or whatever it is that they're doing. But that whole scene, I thought, what if they were just nice to him? Would he have just let them go, just honk the horn, and he would just went on his way? But these are the real questions of Killer Clowns from Outer Space that we've got to be asking.
Right.
Right. No, I just took it like he's the runt of the litter. I think he would have done it anyway.
Right.
He just got to it quicker because they broke his bike and.
Right. You don't piss off Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
That's the lesson we learned there.
That's what they learn.
Otherwise, you get your block knocked off.
These are knocked off, yeah.
Right. All right. So what's next?
We haven't talked about the Terenzi brothers. You have a couple secondary characters, the Terenzi brothers, who are going around town in their ice cream truck.
I'll bring this up.
Played.
If I was somebody in this movie, I would have been one of those brothers.
I could see that. I could see you being a Terenzi brother. Yeah.
Because
I would too, honestly. I'd be like, me and you would be the pair because I feel like I'd be on that group too.
Well, there's and Michael knows this to be true. When you first see them and stuff, and they go up to the point and they're talking to everybody, all of a sudden, these two girls come out from the back, and they're a little thicker.
Chunky.
Yeah. I'm thinking, that's so me. That's so
what kind
me.
of girls do you think we are? I remember.
Yeah. They're trying to use an ice cream truck to get laid. One of the
Right. And I would be lame enough to do that. But,
I mean, honestly, though, it's kind of a brilliant idea, though, because everybody loves ice cream. So, like, I mean, you're not really that far off.
Especially chunky girls, so. Anyway.
Do you remember what they say when they go up to Lover's Lane, though? I can't remember the whole thing, but one of the lines they say is, "A tasty treat for while you screw." Do you remember them on the microphone?
Yeah, I remember them saying stuff. I don't remember exactly what they said, though.
I remember that's how it ends. They have a whole bit, and then it ends, "A tasty treat for while you screw."
But let's but while we're on those two,
yeah,
when they're in the spaceship and they get separated and they fall into the
hot tub,
the
ball pit hot tub,
yes,
and the clown,
yes,
and her breasts,
yes,
breasts blow up.
Yeah, and I thought to myself, I was like, oh my God, Michael is going to say, "That's me." In that ball, in that little thing of balls with those two clowns, chest just growing and they're thick. And if you notice, are we to assume that they ended up having some?
I think they got lucky. I think they got lucky.
I think they got lucky.
I think it was a little rough, but I think they got lucky.
But you know, at the end they come out and they've got like these big kiss prints all over their face.
And their clothes are ripped to shreds, and
I think they had a little clown action going on.
I think they did too.
So
There's that one Trinzy brother. I guess that would be John, where he's asked, "Are you Debbie's roommates?" Do you remember that?
So
You're
there
not
you go.
wrong.
You're in my world now, buddy.
Because I mean, all it is.
Yeah. No, but that was fucking great because they did not act like anything was wrong.
No, there wasn't killer clowns. They were just, yeah.
Yeah.
They were acting like some horny teenagers, or horny young adults.
Oh, that's fucking great. All right, so we talked about the bathroom scene with Suzanne Snyder and the effects in that.
Yep.
They end up capturing her and putting her in that plastic ball, and that's where the four of them end up going to try to rescue her. Trying to think, what was the next thing that happened once we get rid of the brothers?
They go to the cotton candy room, which is now completely full.
Right.
Of cotton candy cocoons and balloons, and they find Debbie, and that's the scene too where Fatso comes in and drinks. The first time we see what the cotton candy cocoons are for, it's their food.
Sure.
Yeah.
Kind of, you know, almost vampire kind of. Because they're sucking out the blood, and you know, and that straw is just like, I remember watching that today, and I was like, man, that is so fucking old school. I remember being a kid in the '80s
and having
and
one
just
of
having these fucking crazy ass, you know, all it did was like keep you from getting the drink quicker, you know. That's all it did. But that was nice. I like that a lot.
I love the camera work right there though too, because you can see they follow the whole blood going up. It takes forever.
They show the path of and that's where it showed, like, you know, the clown, his mouth is, his lips are kind of working a little bit, which, you know, nice touch there.
And then he leaves.
And then that's where the deputy, they find her, and he shoots the ball, and she comes out, and they attempt to escape.
Yep.
At what point do the brothers come back?
They don't come back till the very end. They don't come back till the very end. So
no. They're there when the big.
Yeah, that's the end act of the movie.
Right. So they're basically kind of going through the spaceship, and they're being chased, and that's where the balloon dog shows up again, which fucking great.
I think we missed a big point though.
Oh, go ahead.
Back in the ventriloquist scene, and Detective Mooney's dead, and he throws him to the ground, and the clown is going to kill Dave. He shoots him in the nose and discovers that is how you kill a killer clown from outer space.
Right. I was thinking about that. Yeah. Like, because if he shoots them, they get shot, they get hit, so they don't seem to really, like, they're not susceptible to physical damage, but like shooting their nose is their end point. So, like, what is it about their nose that holds all of their life essence, or what is, you know, it's kind of their heartbeat, you know? And
then they spin and then blow up into confetti.
Yeah, they disappear, yeah.
So then we go back. So that they discover that earlier.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Then we get to the end, and Debbie, Dave, and Mike are running away from them through the circus tent, and of course they go through like these doors that are moving, and then they get to the scene where another door,
right,
another door, and you have all these doors, and they keep getting smaller and smaller, and then they get into this huge room, And then that's where Chris had mentioned earlier, all these clowns come out and they have like bats and golf clubs and all kinds of weapons, and they chase them up onto this pedestal. And then that's where the Terenzi brothers come back. They come blasting into that room with their truck. And that's where you see their clothes ripped to shreds and the kisses on their face, and they talk through the microphone, and the clowns think that the clown head on the truck is like some super clown, and they back off. And then, of course, Clownzilla descends through the ceiling.
Yes. Fucking awesome. That's fucking great. I really like the design of him.
I love how they did him like a mannequin on those strings, and then lowered him, and then the strings broke off.
Yeah.
That was a great effect. Of
But
course,
again, I'm sorry. I was going to say again, all those clowns. I mean, what would you say? 30?
at least 30. At least
30? And I'm sure, like I said, they probably copied a couple of the faces on several of them, but that's a lot of makeup. That's a lot of prosthetics. I mean, they went all out with that. I loved it. Yeah.
they did. They definitely did. I'm sure they all didn't have the movable parts, but you definitely could see distinct personality clowns. And then, of course, John, do you want to finish us off? What happens? Clownzilla gets lowered. Do you remember?
Oh, at the end of the end of Killer Clowns, I was actually sitting there thinking about that costume just alone with Killer Clowns. I was sitting there while I was listening to you, I was thinking about they have a mask that you can buy of that. And I was thinking I should buy that.
They do.
And do a Killer Clowns costume for that film.
That'd be great.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. There'd be a lot of work I'd have to put into that costume, but yeah, it would definitely be fun to do with the film. Goodness, what happens after he drops down from the end there?
He goes over to the Terenzi brothers' truck and smashes the clown head, and then picks up the truck and throws it, and it blows up.
Oh, yeah.
But now there's an escape route because there's a hole in the wall, and so Dave tells Debbie and Mike to run through it. Well, Dave distracts Clownzilla, and then Clownzilla picks Dave up, and Dave has the Deputy Dave has the great idea to take off his police badge and smash Clownzilla's nose, and you get the ultimate explosion. At this point, the tent has come out of the ground and is in like a sphere and is spinning, obviously about ready to take off. And then it blows up, and Debbie and Mike think everyone's dead, and then you hear this kind of whistling noise, and then, oh, we missed that scene. I'll finish it and then go back to it. So then you see this little clown car fall on the ground, and out pops Dave, and then the Terenzi brothers pop out of the top because they hid in the ice cream freezer in the truck and survived. And then, of course, it ends with how any clown movie should end, with pie in your face.
Oh, that was fucking great. That was great. Do you think it's over? Do you think they'll come back? And then just pies. That's fucking great. That's fucking great.
Perfect way to end a movie called Killer Klowns from Outer Space.
Can you imagine if they did a sequel, though? Like, what would be the storyline to that? Do you know, have you heard anything about a Killer Clowns 2, or if there's ever going to be any kind of follow-up to that film?
Well, before we get into that, Michael, go back to what you were going to bring up.
So there was a small little fun scene when the clowns are leaving Debbie's house. They all pile into a clown car. They go out to the boardwalk where the clown tent has now gone, and they pull up, and there's a security guard there. And all these clowns start piling out of this clown car, and then it goes to the security guard, and he says, "What are you going to do with all those pies, boys?" And it goes back to the clowns, and they all have pies, and they all throw the pies on him, and obviously there's something acid or something in the pies that
and even one of the brothers kind of puts his
touched
fingers in it. Yeah, and I'm thinking that was stupid because you
can see an arm bone. Yeah,
right.
But
I thought.
Go ahead.
I was going to say no. I was going to say real quick. I thought you were going to bring up before that when they have the big machine where it's like sucking up the townspeople.
Yeah,
right. That's what I thought you were going to bring up right before the scene you're talking about, where they're loading up all the cotton candy and.
That's where the Terenzi brothers realize that there's actually killer clowns from outer space. They have not seen these clowns running around this whole time, but that's the scene where they realize clowns are real.
We're not the smartest brothers,
right?
We're not the smartest brothers. I mean,
they have one-track mind. They want to get laid. That's all they're thinking about.
We want big boobs and ice cream, and that's all we've got.
And thick women.
We're not worried about clowns,
right?
So, all right. So, I'm sorry, John, I interrupted you. You were asking Michael about a potential sequel, or was there ever?
Yeah. Like, do you think they would ever do a follow up? I mean, obviously, this was such a cult underground film, but with the revitalized interest in it, do you think they would ever do a sequel if there's ever been rumors of one being talked about?
There's been rumors for years, and supposedly there was a script made, and they were supposed to do a sequel. I think they called it a requel, kind of a sequel reboot at the same time, and they were going to have some crossover characters. I think Mike Tobacco was going to be like the town drunk, and no one believed him that killer clowns had come to the city before. But of course, this lives in the real world where there's mergers and acquisitions, and at some point last year, the Sci-Fi Channel bought the rights to Killer Klowns from Outer Space somehow. So right now, the rights to remake or do anything is owned by the Sci-Fi Channel, which I love a good sci-fi movie, but I'm not convinced that they could make a good Killer Klowns movie.
No, I kind of agree. I don't know if they would have the maybe not the passion to do it. If they did, it would be to capitalize on a fan base that already exists. But yeah, I don't know if they did a sequel to it, since Sci-Fi owns it, if it would be in the right mindset. I don't know if it would come out and they'd be like, "Oh, there's Killer Klowns too. We did it because we own it. It's not because we wanted to make it," kind of deal.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's not like a love child type thing. It's like, oh, we can see how popular this is now. We can make some money off of it.
Right.
Exactly. I want someone that loves it and puts their whole passion into it. So I should backtrack a little bit more. Sci-Fi owns it now. When Disney bought Fox, the sequel, the requel, was in pre-production. Somewhere along those lines, Disney canceled those plans.
Of course they did.
So then Sci-Fi Channel came along, and they actually didn't just buy Killer Klowns from Outer Space rights. They also bought the rights to Critters, which they've already made another movie, and they had a TV series on Shudder as well. And I like the series of Critters on Shudder, but it's not good by any means. It's not good at all. It's garbage. I enjoyed it. It's garbage though.
You heard it here first. It's Critters, the series. It's garbage.
It is garbage. But so it makes me, what I saw was done with that makes me nervous to see what they would do with this.
Right. That is also, that's a big thing about when people make remakes like that. You don't know if it's going to be to go back to earlier whenever Chris, you had the Evil Dead remake soundtrack. I think that remake particularly was so good because the director and everybody involved loved the source material, loved Evil Dead. So that's why
It was like
those
love. Yeah.
yeah, those remakes, those requels, those soft reboots that they do, that's why they're good, because the people that make them enjoy them. But then you have the horror movies that people don't necessarily love. They're trying to cap. I think kind of the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. It wasn't really a passion project. It was more or less like, well, we own the rights. Let's make a sequel. It had its good moments, but it wasn't great. So I think, yeah, Killer Clowns, it has to be a perfect storm of money, the right money, and the right people doing it that want to make it good. 'Cause especially since this is such a underground cult film. It's not like it's it wasn't an established franchise that they're rebooting. This is a one-off film that people have fallen with over the years. So it's got to have a very niche market that they've got to appease to. So, yeah, hopefully if they do it, the right person steps up and says, here's a script, here's the idea, let's make it right.
I think the only way that could be done is if they brought the Kyoto brothers on board, and the Kyoto brothers 100% like they were with this movie. If this was Sci-Fi doing their team and all new people, I don't think it would be anywhere near what this is.
I agree. And why they don't bring them back is that would be crazy. I mean, Sci-Fi. I mean, they do all those fucking Sharknado movies. Why not give the brothers a chance to make their movie that, it's going to live up to the original. Why not? I just don't understand why they wouldn't do that. But again, I'm not a Sci-Fi exec, so I don't know what the fuck they're thinking. But
I think one of the best case scenarios that could happen with this is if they did kind of like with Evil Dead or any good remake that have done, is they've had the original creators on it, executive producers that kind of maybe they didn't direct it or even write it, but they just sat on set and said, okay, this isn't great. Let's change this up a little bit and make sure that you're not ruining my idea. So if they even if they weren't writing or directing it, if they were just involved in that aspect, to sit on set and say, okay, this director isn't going to ruin what a good thing was. That would be I think that would give me a little bit more of a hopeful light into it if they were involved in some aspect.
Yeah, that's the only way it's going to succeed and be any good. I completely agree. I do like that aspect where they talked about Mike Tobacco being the town drunk and no one believed him. I think that would be a fun, comedic turn. So let's hope, fingers crossed, that if it comes to fruition, that it's going to be the Chiodo brothers and Sci-Fi will put up the money to do it.
And I don't think a movie like that would be. It definitely would. I would think it would definitely be cheaper than a fucking Sharknado movie.
I would think so too. I think by the last Sharknado movie, the money they were paying to Ian Ziering, or however you say his last name, and Tara Reid would far exceed the budget that a Killer Clowns sequel would get.
Yeah, just a one-off. Yeah, they're not trying to build a franchise. They're just trying to make a follow-up to an already cult classic. So yeah,
right.
One budget that could appease everybody involved.
Yeah, exactly. So, Chris, I'm going to throw a few things out here.
All right.
John might know who this is either. I kind of know who it is, but this is before our time, and I'm sure it's before your time. But I'm sure your mother would know who this is. But that security guard at the end of the movie that gets pied and melted, they originally were trying to get Soupy Sales.
Shut up.
To play that part because of getting pie thrown at him, and the producers or someone involved in Transamerica who put out the movie didn't think anyone would know who he was at that point, and so that got scraped. But I think that would be really cool had they actually gotten Soupy Sales.
I know exactly what you're talking about, and I think that would have been perfect.
From my understanding, is he would have done it. Transamerica didn't want to pay his airline bill, his plane ticket to get out to shoot that.
Oh my god!
But that's what happens.
If I was one of the brothers, I would have been like, "Here, I'll pay for it."
I'll pay it out of my pocket. Yeah.
Oh my God, no, I did not know that at all.
Yeah,
That's
so
fucking
they
incredible.
wanted him. I agree with you. They should have just said, "Here's whatever the plane ticket was back in 1988."
Yeah, just take money out of my pocket. I'll pay for it.
Which
Yeah.
surely at that in 1988, I'm sure a plane ticket from wherever they were wasn't as expensive as it is today. I wouldn't think it could
They
have been
shot.
maybe $100,
They
like
shot it.
$100 maybe.
Yeah, it couldn't have been that much, but
That's crazy. No, I did not. I never knew that.
yeah,
That should have been. It should have been.
it should
Oh
have
my
been.
God.
I agree. What could have been?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
what I love about this movie, for
Mhm.
me, is it is an underdog story. Itself, the movie itself, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, had a very, very limited theatrical release. It may have only been 1, maybe 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
They wrote it off that it wasn't anything. They filmed it. It's over. It's done. No one's ever going to watch this again. I remember seeing it on TV, and here we are 32 years later. This movie, for the last 2 seasons, has had its own maze at Universal Horror Halloween Nights. I feel like
Yeah.
you've made it when you
That's a
get your own
pretty-
maze.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, that's. I mean, that's a big fucking deal. It really is.
There is an interview with Grant Kramer that I saw, and he was in the movie Hard Bodies in the 80s, and he was talking about how he was in that movie, made that movie, and then he made Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Mm-hmm.
And Hard Bodies started to kind of get this cult classic. People were kind of discovering it. And then he's like, and then all of a sudden, so we have this trajectory. Hard Bodies is like this. He made Killer Clowns. No one saw it. It's going to disappear. And then all of a sudden, Killer Clowns from Outer Space just took off. And he's like, it's far exceeded any of our expectations. We thought this was a movie that wasn't going to be seen by anyone. And now it is beloved and is a full-on cult classic. And I love that. It's an underdog story. To me,
Absolutely. No, Michael. Everything you said is totally accurate. It is. It's an underdog story, and that's what I love about the horror community. I mean, you take a movie like that, and it's almost like a sleepaway camp, where it's a beloved in the horror community. So yeah, definite. I think underdog story really sums up the history of that movie, and it's just such a fun watch. And I'll go ahead and say that as far as horror comedy goes, I think I said this in the opening, Return of the Living Dead, and you have Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I would say in my younger years, I lean more towards Return of the Living Dead. I would say, and with Michael being such a fanboy of the movie, it's not that I never enjoyed it. I always loved it, but I think, especially being friends with Michael, I've appreciated it a lot more. Watching it again today, it was a fucking blast. Fucking blast. Absolutely enjoyed watching it. I almost want to put it in my Halloween rotation this October.
it's just in my rotation.
It's just a fun movie. John, what are your thoughts on it?
I think I agree with you. I think Killer Clowns falls under that weird spectrum of it's beloved, but not for the reasons that like Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th is beloved. It was rediscovered by horror fans by it's one of those hidden gems that just kind of existed for a long time. It just existed before it became what it was. It kind of reminds me of the film Dead Alive, where that film wasn't necessarily well received when it first came out, but it has since become this like pinnacle of horror, this kind of like chapter that exists. And I think Killer Clowns will always stand that time of it'll always be someone's favorite film. It'll always be someone's go-to, like, oh, I love Killer Clowns because of, it wasn't the biggest box office hit, it wasn't the scariest film, but it was beautiful and it was great in the sense of exactly what it was. It was Killer Clowns came down and terrorized a small town for one evening. And I think that idea alone will project it for years. But on top of that, I think the costumes, the makeup, the prosthetics they use, that is what really sells it for me. I'm kind of with you. I think you mentioned it earlier that if they didn't have those very hyper-realistic, distinct masks, I don't know if I would I'd probably write it off. But because of how much inventing the imagery, that is what sells the film for me. So Killer Clowns is definitely up there. I agree with you. It may go into my yearly cycle now of films that I watch because of the sheer novelty of it. So yeah, I definitely recommend it. I think it's a good film for sure.
Michael, do you want to give any closing thoughts on it?
I love this movie. I always liked this movie, but I want to say probably the last 5-7 years, it has taken on this whole new meaning for me. And I went from loving it to loving it. Like I have to watch it every Halloween. If I see it on TV, I have to watch it. I love it. It makes me in a good mood, and it's fun to watch. My dream, and Chris has talked about how he likes to watch horror movies with me. My dream would be I've seen this at the Belcourt, but there was like 10 people there. I would love to see this movie in a theater full of people, of fans, and watch their reaction to this movie. That is my dream one day, is to see a theater full of people.
I think what you need to do, and I've been pushing this on you for years now, you really need to hit a horror convention. I know a lot of people that have been in the movie have been doing the horror convention circuit, and I know they've even been showing the movie, and I know that thing's got to be packed. I mean, if there's ever, a time to experience it the way you want, I think that would be the way to experience it for you, where you have, people just as passionate as you are about it, and plus you have some of the fucking cast there as well.
Yeah. Susan Snyder, Grant Kramer, that'd be amazing.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
You want to know how you know that a movie's made it? When Funko Pop makes Funko Pops, and there are Killer Clowns from Outer Space Funko Pops.
And this is where we usually tell people where they can reach us. But as you can tell, as we've been talking, I'm kind of torn through.
You gotta
this.
No.
Oh, sorry.
Krista.
Yeah, I was torn through it. Yeah.
Well, you read everything off to us.
Okay, so they can reach us via email at vhspodcastmailbag@gmail.com. They can reach us on Twitter at vhspodcast1. They can reach us on Facebook at facebook.com/video horror show podcast. And they can reach us on Instagram at VHS_podcast1. And I would like to encourage everybody to go to our Facebook page, because there is an awesome video of me and Michael watching Hell House 3 LLC. What was it called?
Lake of Fire?
Lake of Fire. Yeah. Yeah. And I think within the next week, it's actually a fun watch. It's about an hour and 30-40 minutes.
Yeah.
If you don't want to sit through it, which I would highly recommend, I am going to post timestamps, which I've been promising to do, of Michael's reactions to the movie, which is fucking awesome. John, have you not watched it yet?
I've not watched it. I'll need to watch that.
You should really watch it. I've actually gotten a couple of people that are going to watch Hell House 3 on Shudder and time it with our video so they can experience it with us or our video recording. John, you ought to check it out. John, do you have Shudder?
I do. Yes, I do. I actually, I pirate it from one of my friends who lets me share theirs, but I do technically have it. Yeah.
Okay,
You need to watch the first one though.
The first house.
Hell House LLC.
Hell House.
Hell House. Yeah, the first Hell House. Yeah.
Not House.
Yeah.
Don't watch
Not House. Not the '80s House. No.
No, don't watch House.
I do
For God's
remember.
sake.
I do very, very, very vividly have a memory of Hell House. The first one. There's a sex scene in that film, and I remember as a child I was watching it with my father, and I covered my eyes. My dad said, don't cover your eyes. It's just sex. You'll get to that point when you're an adult anyway. And that stuck with me all my life. It's just like, I guess you're right. I guess I'll get to that point anyway.
There you go. But anyway, I do encourage everybody to go to our Facebook page to watch that video. I'm quite proud of it. I think, and again, let me stress that this is not making fun of Michael. It's just a fun experience. It really is. I mean, Michael is the perfect date to go on a horror movie. He is. He totally is. Love the guy to death. I would easily go to the theater with him, get some Raisinets and a Diet Coke, and go see a horror movie. As Michael says, I'm a whore. I'm a womanizer. That's okay.
Oh, Michael.
Right?
All it is I see.
Right?
I call it.
Oh, Michael.
I have on occasion called him a pervert. It happens.
I do have on good. I have a good on authority to say that as well, as involved in one of our previous podcasts. But I won't go into that.
What?
There you go.
What?
I won't go into that.
Oh my God. Now, is this a Lighthouse thing? Is that what you're talking about?
It might be.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Fine.
The finger is always going to be pointed at the other party at that argument, but that is just something that I'll always
Oh
say.
my God. I'll never live that down. That's
Nope.
gonna
be
stain
part of
you
your legacy.
forever,
It
just like Clint Howard is gonna stain Michael forever.
Whatever.
That's right. Just lay on his belly, Michael.
You're trying to
Deflect.
deflect. Yep.
That's exactly what I'm trying to do. That's exactly. So anyway, Michael, anything else, buddy?
Nope.
All right. Well,
This is our. I hope you people are enjoying this. This is our quarantine series. We obviously can't be together and record as we normally would, so we wanted to do something creative and still do the podcast, but in a different way. So we're Skyping it, and this is the quarantine series, and we'll be putting it out soon. And we hope you enjoy it. And yeah.
and for John and Michael, this is Chris. Be